Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I give you all of the latest gaming news. And now that the PlayStation 5 is in the hands of players, one feature has really blown consumers away. For a long time, much of the game community has focused on graphics and the solid-state drive, but one particular feature really comes off as being truly next generation. Also, Xbox Game Pass is absolutely insane. Microsoft did reveal the huge amount of success the Xbox Series had during its launch, but it's Xbox Game Pass that comes off as being a major winner among fans, so stay tuned for that. Before we get started though, make sure to hit that bell notification and subscribe button to stay up to date with all of the gaming news. I'm here Monday through Friday every week, but with that said, let's get right into it. So this was a little unexpected, but Yakuza Like a Dragon will not be the only new Yakuza game out this week. Sega also released Streets of Kamurocho on Steam as part of Sega's 60th anniversary, and this is actually kinda cool. This is basically a reskin of Streets of Rage 2's first level with Yakuza characters, and that's actually a perfect combination. Yakuza pretty much is a 3D beat-em-up style game, so making an old retro style game like this is a great nod to both franchises. Unfortunately, this is only one level that gets put on loop with increased difficulty, but it is free. I still would have liked to have seen an entire game made out of this, but again, it's free, so if you do like either of these franchises, you might want to go check this one out. It's only going to be available from November 13th to the 16th, so if you do want this game, you might want to go download this one now. Also, there's been a lot of talk about the PlayStation 5's launch lineup and whether or not it's good enough to jump into this generation early on. Well, I'm happy to say PlayStation is leaving exactly where they left off with the PlayStation 4, and Demon's Souls is coming in as another superb exclusive for PlayStation. Reviews are starting to trickle in, and while it doesn't have many reviews yet, it does have a 92 overall score on Metacritic. That is an absolute fantastic start, and a great launch game to have. Of course, you do have to like these type of games and want a challenge, but this could be Sony's Breath of the Wild. That game launched side by side with the Switch, and critics and fans alike seem to have loved it, and Demon's Souls could be that game for the PlayStation 5. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the same widespread appeal, but it's still one of the best launch games ever for any console that I can remember. This is about what I was expecting though. See, I actually bought this game when it launched for the PlayStation 3, and I remember back then I was heavily contemplating importing this game from PlayAsia because it wasn't originally available in the United States. Luckily though, it eventually came, and it really started the whole Soulsborne genre, and even today it's just as good as what it was back in 2009. I think that's what makes this a perfect remake though. The Soulsborne genre has gained a lot of popularity since this game released, and because the gameplay is so timeless, a lot of people that missed out on this game for the PlayStation 3 can now play it with insane looking visuals. I know for myself, I'm absolutely thrilled to have this game remade. Bluepoint did a phenomenal job, and well, I hope everybody's enjoying it. If you are looking for a game to sell you onto PlayStation 5 though, if you like these type of games, yeah, it's really good. Now, even though much of the online game community is talking all about the Xbox Series and PlayStation 5, the Nintendo Switch is still there in the background, putting up crazy, ridiculous numbers. NPD October results did come out, and the Nintendo Switch has now been the best-selling platform in the United States for 23 straight months. That's crazy, and it goes to show you just how successful the Nintendo Switch has been. It will be interesting though to see what exactly happens in November, because competition just got a lot more ferocious. I think November results are going to come down to who can supply the most stock, as the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series will pretty much sell whatever they put on shelves. So we'll see if Nintendo can be the best-selling platform for 2 straight years or not, but let's focus on what Nintendo did do. They sold a massive 735,000 units in October alone, and to put into perspective how big of a deal that is, that's actually the second best October in video game history. The only console to sell more in October was the Nintendo Wii back in 2008, which sold 807,000 units. And really at the time, the Wii was the it item. It was selling out everywhere during that period of time, but if you ask me, I do believe the Switch will ultimately surpass the Wii in total units sold. While the Wii was incredibly popular for a long time and it sold about 102 million units in total, it didn't have the longevity that I think the Switch will have. The thing about the Wii was that the Wii attracted a lot of casual gamers with motion controls being a new thing at the time, but eventually that did die down. I think Xbox kinda got caught up in that with Kinect as well, and a lot of the Wii user base moved on from consoles and moved more towards phones. So that market just kinda dried up. So I don't think the Nintendo Switch is going to be in that same situation, and I think it has a lot more long-term appeal. That's why I do think the Switch will ultimately sell more than the Wii as time goes on. Of course, we'll see about that, but big congrats to Nintendo on their success with the Switch. And while we're on the topic of NPD, let's take a look at the best-selling games in the United States. And right at the top, you have FIFA 21 and Madden 21. Yeah, EA is making bank with their sports franchises. Now, Watch Dogs Legion came in a little bit lower than expected with that number 3 spot, but we could see a jump here with it coming to next-generation consoles. Some people might have held off on that purchase, and then of course Nintendo did great with 3 games being in the top 10, including Mario Kart Live Circuit. That's an interesting game, but it is doing well for Nintendo so far. The one I'm most interested in though is Crash Bandicoot 4. It comes in at the number 10 spot, so it is showing some legs here. We did talk about this last month as it was on the September charts as well, but because it didn't have much data, I was really hoping to see a big increase here. Well, it didn't get a major increase like I wanted, but it still does seem to be tracking rather okay. I think that the reason this game isn't having as much success as some wants it though, is because it's a $60 game, and that's a bit higher than some expected, considering the Insane Trilogy was $40 at launch. Probably not the best decision on Activision's part, but I will say this. It really is a great game, and I do highly recommend it. I just hope it does good enough to where Activision doesn't forget about it once again. Let's move on over to the Xbox news though, and they had a very successful launch with the Xbox Series. We talked a little bit about this yesterday as we learned it was the biggest launch for Xbox consoles ever. Of course, we know that the Xbox One sold 1 million units in 24 hours at launch, so that means the Xbox Series has sold more than that, which really shows you just how good of a job Phil Spencer has done at turning things around for the Xbox brand. One of the reasons for the Xbox Series success though is Xbox Game Pass. I love Xbox Game Pass, and it's by far the best deal in gaming, and I think that's a pretty common belief by this point. They just continuously add game after game, and these are good games. They aren't just throwing in a bunch of filler, but they're actually bringing fun games to the service, both small and big, and fans are absolutely thrilled about it. Well, Microsoft did reveal some new information today about their launch success, and check this out. Not only did the Xbox Series sell more than previous generations, but the Series S added the most new players, which I'll come back to in just a moment. That's kind of a weird line, but 70% of all Xbox owners have Xbox Game Pass, and more than 3,000 different games were played at launch. That's insane, and let me explain. Xbox Game Pass is a legit system seller. People who are invested in Xbox Game Pass are buying into the new Xbox, and it's easy to see why. It's a fantastic service, and honestly, I expect that number to rise. That 30% that isn't invested yet, there's a very real chance that will change. I mean, Xbox Game Pass is only going to get better from this point forward. They just added EA Play, which has several big games such as Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Titanfall, but Xbox just acquired a ton of new studios. All of those games will be included in Xbox Game Pass. That means games like Starfield, The Elder Scrolls 6, and Hellblade 2 will come to Xbox Game Pass day one. So as these new studios start to release their games, Xbox Game Pass is going to be more enticing than what it is already. If you think about it, when Halo Infinite releases, Xbox Game Pass is going to be pushing a lot of subscriptions. I'm fully expecting Halo Infinite servers to be hammered day one. So yeah, this is a real system seller for Xbox, and when they talk about how over 3,000 games were played on Xbox Series launch day, that just goes to show you the type of ecosystem they have. That whole no game narrative just couldn't be further from the truth. I will say this, however, it was genius in how Microsoft positioned Xbox with Xbox Game Pass. Let's go back to the Xbox Series for a moment though, because they are saying it added more new players than any other console, and the wording here can be a little confusing. The Xbox Series X did sell more units, but what this means is that a lot of the Xbox Series S users were not in the Xbox ecosystem already. People who bought the Series X, on the other hand, were more often than not in the Xbox ecosystem already. On to the PlayStation news though, because we got two different topics here. The PlayStation 5 is now out in the wild, and one thing that I've been seeing a lot over the last 24 hours is how blown away people seem to be by the new PlayStation 5 DualSense controller. In the past, this has almost seemed like an afterthought to a lot of people, as much of the game community was focused on graphics and the solid-state drive, but it's the controller that seems to have impressed fans more than anything else. The technology really is incredible though, and Astra's Playroom shows you exactly why. I was playing that game last night, and really, it's a very charming game. I kept telling people, this game's going to surprise a lot of people. I know it's free and is not a big AAA game, but it's got so much charm, it's fun, and it's just a wonderful experience. I also think it's a perfect game to celebrate the PlayStation 5 launch, as it takes a deep dive into the history of PlayStation. There's several cameos and nods to PlayStation's history. The music is also fantastic, and in one particular level, the GPU is literally singing to you as you go through the level. I really can't say enough good about this game, but it does do a great job at showing off the technology for the DualSense. You can actually feel the texture and footsteps through vibrations within the controller. And then there's the adaptive triggers and how they can actually create resistance. It's an odd feeling and it's almost hard to describe, but these things have really impressed a lot of the community, myself included. Now, I do think that the handles are a little bit longer than what I'd want, but it's still a comfortable controller, and the technology it has comes off as being a true next generation feature. Now, what will be interesting is whether or not third-party developers will make use of this technology or not. That still does remain to be seen, and I'm not sure if anything will be as impressive as Astro's Playroom, but if you haven't played that game, go check it out and you'll see exactly why fans are raving so much about some of these features. On to our last topic though, and I'll try to make this one quick, but Nioh 1 and 2 will be heading over to the PlayStation 5 and Steam on February 5th of 2021. Yeah, these are actually some of the more underappreciated games from last generation, and they're getting some pretty nice upgrades here. They will include 4K resolution and up to 120 frames per second. Now, if you do have the Nioh 2 Complete Edition, you will get this as a free upgrade, but if you just have the base edition, you will only get the base upgrade for free. Unfortunately, the DLC in Nioh 2 Complete Edition for the PlayStation 5 cannot be purchased separate from my understanding. Still though, these are great games, and whether you played them before or you missed out on them, you might want to consider checking these out on February 5th. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.